No.
Wow.
Tastes like fries.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Alien Familiar RPG Podcast. I am Clayton.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Lanina.
I'm Nina.
I'm Skipped.
Skipped.
Hi, Skip. Nice to meet you.
Kyle Perkins. God.
Sad he didn't get to go first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry.
Dude, shit really sucks.
Before we get started, I just want to remind our listeners that you can find show notes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com, and we are on Facebook at facebook.com/alienfamiliar. And our topic for today, we are going to be discussing rules that suck, systems and subsystems that just don't work, things that nobody seems to be able to get right in game design.
Why don't we kick it off strong, Kyle?
Oh, God. You're going to make me talk about Eclipse
Let's
Phase
talk
now?
about... Oh,
Before we say anything about any systems that we're going to shit on practically the entire episode, I just want to say to anybody who is designing a game, please, for the love of God, put a glossary of acronyms, a glossary of common roles, a glossary of formulas, and or modifiers somewhere in your goddamn book. Preferably at the end.
Yeah, and an index.
Yes.
Wow,
what a fucking concept, yeah.
The system that we're probably going to be shitting on a lot this session is Eclipse Phase. And we've finished 8 actual sessions of Eclipse Phase. And by show of hands, how many of us feel like we have a good base understanding of the game system?
I'm going to put my hand up and then look around the table and then quickly withdraw it.
Aww.
So we have exactly as many hands up as the listeners can see.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was about to clarify that.
And if I'm not mistaken, everyone here either has or is pursuing a college-level education.
Yep.
I've never went to college in my life.
Sometimes
I
I don't
have no
think it's
idea what
real.
you're talking about.
It's not real. College education is a lie.
More importantly, we've all played a lot of RPGs for the most part. And
We finished.
I've never played an
Eclipse
RPG in my life, guys.
We
Okay,
finished an Eclipse Phase thing.
Fucking
before.
wrote one from scratch.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck Eclipse Phase wants from me.
Nina's played in one Eclipse Phase campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I've played in 2, and I'm DMing one currently. For
You
these.
mean Lanina.
Oh yeah, true. Me. Me and Kyle Perkins have played an Eclipse Phase game together, completed successfully, with rules skipped and such like that, but it was still rough back then, and I still have no idea what I'm doing now.
I went back and kind of tried to reread some of the rules until my eyes crossed again.
Uh-huh.
And it occurred to me that Eclipse Phase is, in every sense, a good horror game.
Yeah.
The setting is incredibly detailed and really conveys the horrificness of it. The game system, on an overview,
It's a horror itself.
you can understand it, but the more you get into the weeds, you just realize how malicious the entire thing is, that everything is just out to fuck with your ability to enjoy what's going on.
It's cruel. The book is cruel, if we're being honest.
Yeah, let me give a surface overview for those of you who have never, fucking re-sleeved into Eclipse Phase.
Oh, lol.
So, thanks, Lanina. Eclipse Phase, I do want to agree and echo Clayton here. The setting is fucking incredible. I mean, it's an award-winning system. It was highly reviewed at, high honors at Gen Con when it came out. The setting is amazing. Really well done. It's great cyberpunk. It's horror. It's a perfect representation of what our future is going to look like. What?
Yikes. This is a full-on yikes for that one.
However, the system, on the surface, you look at the character sheet, it seems pretty straightforward. It's a percentile system, couple of D10s, all you need, seemingly. It's got skills. It does have a lot of weird...
Terminology?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Semantics?
Well, no, hang on. Here's the character sheet. Let's check it out, guys. We got our aptitudes. Okay, what's that, you ask? I don't know. Cog, coup, int, ref, sav, som, and we. So, some of those might be familiar. I mean, int, I'm pretty sure, and I'm DMing this game right now, I'm pretty sure that's intellect. I'm pretty sure ref is your ability to referee a fucking match. Reflex.
I thought it was to reference something.
Will is probably will, but cog, coup, sav, som, what? Like, why the
I think
fuck?
SOM is my favorite because what it does stand for is somatics.
But who the fuck knows what the word somatics
Right,
means? Like who calls strength and your ability to
High tech. It's high tech.
Like fucking leverage your strength.
I was
Who the
gonna
fuck
say,
calls that somatics?
Wait, I was gonna say it matches up to dexterity, but am I wrong?
No, somatics is very much your, like, strength or, like, constitution,
Hey
like,
guys,
something in that
Hey
ballpark.
guys, I've been playing Eclipse Phase a little bit wrong. Just a little bit
I
wrong.
think everyone does.
Okay, now hang on, I'm not done yet. Below the attributes, the aptitudes. Below I know, right? Below the aptitudes, we have our okay, we have our stats. Oh, cool, our stats. Everyone's got a stat. It's an RPG. We got stats. I've been playing stats ever since I fucking played Final Fantasy VIII. All right, let's look at our stats. We got Mox. We got we got TT, the crying emoji. We got luck with no K. We got that was a printing malfunction. Something. Man, whose character sheet is this? Oh, it's Haley's. Here we go. We got IR, whatever the fuck IR is. We've got infrared, yeah. We've got WT, George W.T. Bush. We've got DER.
I would like for you to go over some of the equations that you calculate.
You're right.
The advanced calc that you need for this game.
Let's take it back now, y'all. Charlie Brown this thing. We've got TT is LUC divided by 5.
Luke?
Alright.
Less.
By the way, Luke is Will Wheaton. We got Will times 2. That's your Luke.
That's your Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh my god, you're
Wow,
right.
this is deep when you really look at it like that.
Hey, wait, guys, we might actually love Eclipse Phase. Tune in.
We just gotta dig a little deeper.
IR is luck times 2. The old W-T, WT, is DER divided by 5. DER, by the way, it comes from your morph. That's all it says in the box is from morph. Now,
Round down or round up?
fuck if I know. Now, mind you, DER is probably durability, right? That's I'll give him that
Okay.
one. How about DR? Biomorphs, their DR is their DER times 1.5.
1.5.
So we're...
Wait, what is...
Do you round up or down?
What is DR? Wait, please.
DR is actually damage resistance, but what the fuck is that?
No, it's not.
We're
Synth-
out
No,
of
it's not,
integers
because-
now. We're into 1.5.
Wait, no, is that your durability rating? I actually don't know, and I DM this god-awful system. Synthmorphs, your DER times 2 gets you your DR. Here's a great one, guys. I hope you know your old PEMDAS. There's another acronym for you because
PEMDAS?
you're PEMDAS because
Please
you're
excuse me.
Order of operations.
yeah, you're OOP. Because you're init, which is probably your initiative, right? Like probably init's probably initiative. Your init is your int plus your ref divided by 5.
Wait, do I need the FOIL method?
No.
Now, that's a good question. Is that int plus ref divided by 5, or is that int plus ref divided by 5?
Okay, see how it's written? Let's talk about this. Let's talk about PEMDAS real quick. Oh god, I have no idea. That's a really, bad formatting.
Then we've got our SPUD, SPD.
Oh, my favorite form. I love Spud.
Does anyone have a SPID
Is
of
that
more than one?
speed? Is that speed? Did they really do
Yes,
speed?
it's
SPD?
Yeah.
Now, I know from playing this system that having a SPUD of more than one is very beneficial because you can get, multiple turns. It's like having, high celerity. And then finally, we have our dB, our decibels. and to calculate your dB, it's SOM divided by 10.
Why?
I don't know,
Once
Nina.
again, do you round up or down?
I don't know, Nina.
Obviously,
go
that
into
depends on
decimals?
significant figures.
Oh, good
What
god.
can have decimals and what cannot have decimals?
Oh, let's play
Nothing
a game
can
with
have decimals, to my
decimals.
knowledge.
What's a D10 plus 1.5?
Times. Let me roll it.
Now, okay, I want to go back into some things that are decent. I like their array of skills.
We're not talking about decent things. We're talking about rules that suck.
I hate the skills in this game.
Yeah?
Yeah, there's a shitload of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I'm fine with the game with a shitload of skills. Frey is a stupid fucking name. Mm-hmm. It doesn't tell you what the fuck it does, and when you look it up, it's basically dodge. Why don't you call it dodge?
Frey, we're in the future.
Because it's your ability to control yourself in the fray.
Oh, God.
Just a couple of guys.
I hated that interaction, mind you.
Oh, God. And that's just looking at the character sheet. You dive into this fucking book, I feel bad for anybody who owns a hard copy of this book. And I just paid an extra, like, $30 to have a limited edition copy of the .hack remastered editions shipped in from Amazon.co.jp.
Loser.
I was kind of waiting for you to bring that up today.
Fuck off, y'all. I love collector's editions. I love hard copies of things. Less so now that I'm a responsible adult, but in my, like, early 20s, I ate that shit up. And I feel bad for anybody who has a hard copy of this game. It's massive, it's bloated. Like, if it were all just the lore, that's great. Oh, guess what, fucking kiddos? You can go on Chuck's Eclipse Phase wiki and look up all the lore you ever wanted.
Actually, the wiki is so good.
The wiki is preferable.
So good.
It's great. Shout out to Chuck.
Control F, all that shit.
This
kind of the only reason I know anything about this game.
It would be an awesome video game that handled all this shit
fair.
behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why isn't this a video game yet?
Probably because nobody's playing it.
It had a lot of followers. Like, there's been a lot of people who play this game. Like, I personally know of, a group of people I knew in high school. They loved Eclipse Phase. They played it after it came out. They played it weekly for quite a while.
Right, and I really can only find good reviews for this game.
Yes.
Like, I can't find many. Like, I think I found maybe one bad review for this game.
Wait, do you guys think there's, like, some kind of weird squad by, like, the people who produce the game that, like, goes around and silences bad reviews? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yep.
Good thing I got a high fray.
To control yourself in the fray, which is, by the way, I had no idea that's what that meant. Like, I just kind of worked with it.
A lot of this is improv, I feel, like figuring it out as we go and listening to Kyle and believing what he says about what the rules are.
Questionable.
Don't backpedal now. Y'all hate this just as much as I do.
I've listened to several Eclipse Phase actual plays on YouTube, and more since we've all started complaining about it. And what I think is that most people don't play the game by the book. Mm-hmm. I think most people just figure out some quick, easy convention to just get through the fucking dice challenge and move on to whatever the next thing is.
Dice challenge.
And
solved the dice puzzle.
Yeah, whatever kind of bullshit is in front of you, just roll percentile and see if you make it.
So kind of homebrewy.
I don't think most people play the game by the book. If there was an Eclipse Phase referee right there, they'd be throwing, flags like
Could
crazy.
you imagine the amount of knowledge you would need to be an Eclipse Phase referee, Jordan?
I would need a quantum computer, at least.
That's an AI. That's an AI you can download.
Oh, an Eclipse Phase AI? That sounds very helpful. When we're confused, just asking questions.
It actually legitimately does. Yikes.
At the developers next.
Make a Facebook bot.
They're working on a second edition right now. I haven't looked at it. I hope it's like...
How long have they been working on it?
Of the difficulty rounded down.
How long have they been working on it?
I hope they have a character generator, because that would be fucking nice in this absolutely god-awful...
Yeah,
that's the great thing about the Apocalyptia website. It's got a character generator.
Well, it's got a new one that is being worked on as we speak.
It does?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, though. I've heard about the creator, and they're pretty shit.
I've heard bad things about him as well.
Real fucking scumbag motherfucker.
Questionable, dude.
We spent 2 sessions creating characters.
Yeah.
And it's not like Traveler. It's not a fun romp.
And I want to point out that when I said we played 8 sessions, that does not count the 2 sessions of character creation. So we've actually been encountering this game for 10 sessions.
Encountering this game. Like it's a fucking...
We have run against it.
Enemy in the wild.
Not to mention, even after 2 days of character creations, I still probably don't have a full character create.
Yeah. It was the most miserable character creation process I've ever been through.
I like to think it brought us closer as friends. Wait, actually, by the way, Didn't we just now finish character creation, by the way? Like, because we didn't do motivations before today.
I'm still kind of working on it, honestly.
You also just recreated a character. You had to go through character creation twice.
How does that feel?
Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
HARIBLE, horrible.
The worst. I can't imagine a situation where someone would be killed in the first 15, 20, 30 minutes of a game and then have any chance of playing for the rest of the session, regardless of how long the session is, unless they just play an exact duplicate of their character.
Or have a character made already.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Although, actually, okay, being real, I think the answer there is resleeving. You die, you gotta back up, you resleeve. And that's why, actually, I have this from the developers. I phoned into them last week. This is why they, the whole resleeving thing, it's not about transhumanity and the horror of losing your humanity. It's because character creation takes so fucking long, you need goddamn save states in a pen and paper RPG.
Yeah, pro tip, either resleeve or just, when you make a character, just make two. Just make two.
No, I made two because I knew I made a bioconservative character who absolutely would not resleeve. I made this decision before I started character creation, and I decided to stick with it, and I actually have two characters ready to go, and then for some God knows reason why, I decided to make my second character somebody who really likes to jump from morph to morph to morph, so I actually bought 3 morphs. With him.
I was making a joke, but you actually have a backup character, bless your heart.
Yep.
Also, your main character, hope he never dies. Love him with my whole heart.
No, I kind of hope he dies.
I love Rain with my whole heart.
You're gonna hate my new character.
I really, really will, but I don't care because you know what? I love Rain with my whole heart.
I think just upgrades all the fucking time.
Rather than just complaining about how horrible the character creation process is, I would like to say something about specifically why it's bad mechanically.
Okay.
And for me, that is because it is overwhelming in the amount of decisions that are required. And it's not just that you have this gigantic pool of points with which to spend on whatever.
And some of those points are allocated for certain things. Others
that's
are...
the problem.
Oh, I didn't mean to jump
that
in.
You have this huge pool of points, but it is arbitrarily decided on how you can spend particular ones, and when you spend them affects everything about your character. You can buy things for a morph that then modify your morph that then in later purchases affect the whole fucking equation later on down the line. And the whole thing is this huge circular clusterfuck. And when you're trying to make the best character you can, as I think every player does to some degree, it's not even just a matter of min-maxing, it's just making a capable character under the system. You're really under this SAT of a character creation process to try to figure out where the fuck your points are supposed to go. There's too much in too many different categories. I feel like if they had compressed everything into much fewer categories and just let you throw points at it, it would have been much better. The whole thing about like knowledge skills being off on this different thing and, the rest of your skills being on another thing, the points you spend on credits and then being able to spend credits on other shit.
It just blows my mind
just too many layers.
They've worked analysis paralysis into the mechanics of this game.
Yes. Precisely.
To go into more detail about what Jordan is talking about for character customization points, because that's what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. After you've done your aptitudes, you have 1,000 character points to spend. These are what you have to spend in skills and anything else that you want to put into your character. You have to put 400 of these 1,000 into skills. And then you have to put an additional
skills, right?
And then you have to put an additional 300 into knowledge skills, which are a subset. But if you spend your requisite 700 points on just your active skills and knowledge skills, and then decide you want to change one of your attribute or one of your aptitudes, then it completely fucks up any of the math that you've already done for your skills.
Yeah, because every single skill has an aptitude as its foundation, and so then that bounces everything up, and then when you hit that magic number of 60, things become more expensive from 60 to 80, and then 80 to however many. changes the equation for how many character points you have to spend for each fucking point of a skill. And Jesus Christ.
And the thing is, after you spend your requisite 700, guess what the remaining 300 are called? Oh, free points.
Yikes.
Now, guess what you can spend free points on, guys? Anything! Oh, well, of course I'm gonna go buff up my character's core aptitudes. Oh, wait, yeah, that completely fucks with everything else I've done. Mm-hmm. It's a nightmare.
That's why I spent all my remaining points on Moxie.
That's why I spent
That's why I have so much Moxie.
points on, what's it called?
I wound up with a bunch of credits.
Positive
Me
traits.
too.
Bunch of money.
I still have
Well, no.
180 CP, and each character point is worth 1,000 credits.
Yep.
Hey, bud, I got weapons, but that's fine.
Not to mention, a lot of the skills that you're given don't make sense at first. Like, you need a full dictionary of what each one means. Like, I didn't know what InfoSec did. I didn't remember, so I just didn't put any points in there. And you know what? It screwed me.
It's interesting that you brought up a character creator before, because there is a non-official character creator that exists for this game, and it still took me hours to make this character.
Yes, that's what I used for both my characters, and I probably spent maybe a total of maybe 6 or 7 hours.
I needed
making
hours
characters.
and a guide. Like, I remember that I called Kyle, and I was just like, please walk me through this character. Oh my god.
Plus every single piece of gear or morph, mod, or genetic thing, or item, or whatever, has 2, 3, 4 paragraphs of rules associated with each one of those things. And so when you're done, you've got this subset of the book that is your character sitting in front of you.
Yikes.
It's enormous.
Did any of us actually make our handmade 2-session long? That's about 8 hours for our group, by the way. 2-session long handmade characters. Did any of us get them to balance out with the online character creator? Because most of us went back after we made them by hand. We went back to this handmade. And by the way, like, whoever made this, props to you.
Fucking
Hats
saint.
off.
I will put a link in the show notes for this.
It was much easier. It was still difficult.
Uh-huh. And it's not your fault, creator. Like, you're working with, some kind of, like, piece of shit Frankenstein's monster made out of goddamn, like, possum tails. And that's everything is made of possum tails. But you made it work. We did it. None of us were able to make the books balance. None of us were able to balance our handmade characters with this online character creator.
Well, I'd like to say, I don't think that the Eclipse Phase system is a piece of shit. I think it's fucking brilliant if it were handled by a fucking computer. But expecting human beings to do this on a piece of paper is absurd. If this were all done in a PC game, I would play the fuck out of this game. But God
Right, because
damn it,
the lore of
that's
this
just too
game is
much.
amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I from what I've read, I adore the lore of this game, but
That's what we get for being
Getting,
biased.
getting to the lore is like digging your own grave.
But you want to do it.
Exactly.
Like, I spent the longest I've ever spent prepping for a campaign, preparing for this one that we're playing right now. And I was working, at the restaurant over summer. We were super slow. I was getting a paycheck, sitting around on my laptop. Supposed to be doing graphic design. No, I wasn't. I was looking at the Eclipse Phase wiki. And I spent weeks just digging through shit. I've got, 3 pages single-spaced in Microsoft Word that fucking... They're just like seeds for different things I could throw at you guys, or places to go. 10.
Oh, okay. That's
yikes.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
And, just all kinds of cool shit.
Single-spaced
All kinds of
everything.
cool shit that we won't get to, but I loved it. God. Oh, man. Do you know that there are derelict Mars cycler ships? And this is a real concept. You've got Earth and you got Mars, and there's an orbit you can find with the right amount of mass and initial delta V to get you into this orbit. And it is an automatic orbit that is slow, takes some time, but without any additional delta V input for a while until you gotta correct your course anyway. This fucking thing will orbit between Earth and Mars constantly.
like a figure 8 or what?
I'm not sure exactly what it would look like, but the concept's called a Mars cycler. and it would be like a freeway. You'd have to, obviously match up to the cycler ship to unload or load cargo, but this thing would just cruise. And much like any other satellite, it would start to kind of go off course a bit, so you'd have to correct every now and again. But like, how fucking cool is that? And there were derelict Mars cyclers that were fucking ripped apart by the Titans, full of like goddamn weird exurgent peoples that body parts are made of fucking tails out of goddamn possums.
Possum tails.
It's awesome. I love Eclipse Phase, guys. I love it. But fuck. It's
Somebody
hard.
help this man, please.
It's so good, and yet it hurts me.
I think this game is an example of where developers should have had a core book and then multiple supplements branched off from it, but instead decided to smush it all as tightly compressed as they possibly could into this black hole of a system.
They stuck it into a zip file. That's about it.
Yeah.
Do you think they had a mathematician on hand?
Yeah.
Just sitting there just being like, okay, sure.
Yeah, guys, let's talk about
PEMDAS,
differential
if you will.
calculus.
I think we might need to like rename this episode just like, hey, you want to play Eclipse Phase? Don't.
Do, but with your own rules.
Have a mathematician on hand. Wait, that's a really good idea.
Have a bunch of engineers. Engineers would love
Engineers would love this game.
Absolutely.
If you just leave this into the engineering building, they'll just huddle around it, be confused, and then start playing.
Right,
Suddenly
because
it's a
the
full
engineers
campaign.
are all gremlins, which I agree with. Like, I agree
In the
with.
engineering building, they're like,
They're gremlins.
Maybe that's
Sleep
what we're
there.
missing for our Eclipse Phase games. We just need a whiteboard.
Which is why we should
Got one on the
play
wall.
in the living room, everyone.
Now, I do want to note that Rob Boyle, the game designer and writer,
Theoretical physicist.
he's a game designer and writer on the Eclipse Phase project, has legally, again, you're right. They took everything, they crammed it into a black hole, a massive book, and they turned that into a PDF, and they've released it for free. It's free. You can download PDFs legally.
Hats off.
I'm real happy about that. I really am. But, I just hope that the next one, the next Eclipse Phase, keeps the amazing work they put in and the amazing setting and the horror, the horror, but makes it easier to digest and easier to play and, for fuck's sake, easier to DM.
I have a DM's guide.
We had a fight in our last session.
Not even a fight.
It was
Like
it
an
was
actual
a combat.
Fight? Oh, I wasn't sure if you meant
had
like
a
between.
round.
I thought
Yeah,
you meant
we had
between
a-
players.
I see.
Full round of
Just
combat
like-
drills.
No, we had a combat in the last session. It was a hallway, and I was very specific to note that this hallway was a hallway. Didn't have any fucking alcoves, pillars. It was literally a giant rectangular fucking prism.
Okay, nobody asked you to draw a map, and yet you did, bud.
Point is, one of my players, old Clayton here, wanted to step forward and basically kick the enemy. Take a couple steps, kick. Effectively.
In my mech.
In his battle mech, yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Point is, I couldn't figure it out! I work for NASA! That's all I got about Eclipse Phase.
Yeah.
Eclipse Phase has a lot.
I will say that the enemy was using a fucking chameleon cloak. And
No, but all they wanted to do was kick.
no,
Like,
you're
you're fair.
there were some extenuating circumstances, but I'm not using that much hyperbole here. Like it that's basically what it was. Oh, love the setting.
Yep.
It's a great game.
Just so this doesn't turn into an Eclipse Phase podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like Eclipse Phase is like it's a litmus test for whether or not you deserve to be a transhuman in the future. If you can manage to deal with this fucking bizarre set of mechanics, then goddamn it, sleeve into some immortal fucking morph and go on into the cosmos.
You're right, there definitely is some, like, kind of jackass out there being like, the game's not that hard.
Yeah. Fucking flats.
Okay, fucking flats is my new favorite insult. Oh my god.
I really want to enjoy Eclipse Phase, but the rules system, everything about the rules system makes it.
I love KP's game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's real good, yeah.
I'm having a great time.
I love to RP. It's not what we don't need combat.
We RP to avoid combat.
Yeah, I feel like
What this group is.
this game has been one of the more story-driven, like, player interaction-driven things, because I don't think any of us want to lift a finger against anything.
And to be clear, we do love the story.
Yeah.
Just fighting is hard.
Okay, me in real life, though. Love the story. Fighting's real hard.
So that's Eclipse phase.
Do it if
That was the
you,
sound of me throwing away all of your characters.
If you're masochistic, you might like this game.
Jordan, since you are the only one here who has designed a game system, do you want to go over anything that you've had just a really tough time just putting into mechanics?
Okay. The classic one is grapple, which I have shitloads of problems with, but I'm going to set that aside for a minute and talk instead about auto fire. Any fully automatic mechanic that I've ever seen in a game either doesn't do the real world phenomenon justice or wildly overestimates the chances of hitting someone or the damage that you do or whatever, or it becomes just so goddamn clunky there's no way that anyone's going to use it in an efficient manner in a turn of combat. And it makes perfect sense, because what you're trying to fucking simulate here is a weapon that is shooting however many tens or hundreds of rounds in a given period of time, and somehow eloquently represent how those projectiles are going to affect anyone caught in their path. And you've got multiple uses for this. If I'm standing there and want to completely unload, 30 rounds of my magazine into one guy, that's a totally different kind of set of mechanics than if I want to kick in the door and spray down the room. What happens when someone's 100 yards away and you're just wildly shooting in that direction? Like, all of these things are totally different deals. And I have been incapable of coming up with something that I am satisfied with as far as rules for this. I've looked at World of Darkness, I've looked at D20 Modern, I've looked at, Chaosium. There's storytelling systems that don't even bother to really deal with it. It's just sort of a thing that you say you do and give some bonus or whatever.
It sounds like a big chance of random probabilities that are so too quick to calculate and too much dirty work to even bother to calculate with.
Yeah. Like suppressing fire, for instance. Let's say I'm a dude at the end of a hallway, and I know there's bad guys running around at the end of the hallway, but I don't want them to come my way. So I'm just gonna stick my gun out there and fucking squeeze the trigger just to fucking, get a chance of shooting anybody that's down there, and it's mostly scaring people. But what happens if somebody does decide
that's
to
a
run down the
bonus to
hallway?
intimidation.
Oh, okay, it's a bonus to intimidation, but what if they do run after you? What's your odds of fucking hitting them? Is there some quick way to explain that? I've done the best I can in Apocalyptia, but I'm still not satisfied with it.
There's probably a way to, but it's some complex thing that would take too long to do in like a real game situation.
That's the rub.
Yeah.
That's the rub with a lot of this shit. Because the world is so fucking complicated, trying to articulate it in a couple of lines at most of rules. Nearly impossible sometimes.
And make it so that it's not something that is so unfair that in the real world, if it operated like this, there would be a very simple way around it.
Yeah. Truth is, machine guns pretty much take the day. Mm-hmm. There's a reason that it's pretty much the gold standard of the infantryman's arsenal is some kind of automatic weapon. It just wins. It's the best we've been able to do so far. But then there's, always that thing in role-playing games that there's sort of this weird unspoken pressure that you want everything to be kind of good somehow, but...
Because I do look real cool walking around with like a big fucking 14-inch barrel revolver.
Yeah. But,
It's kind of like wizards. Wizards and machine guns are like the same thing, though. Mm-hmm. They're hard to balance.
Mm-hmm. Everyone should just play a wizard, because wizards are the best.
Yep.
Yikes.
That's what I do.
You know, M16 beats 44 Magnum revolver. Just does.
Yep. And going off of what you're talking about, auto fire, an area that I've never been satisfied with any game, is just the minutia of keeping track of ammunition.
Yeah.
Because you either have a game system that completely ignores it, and it's just you run out of ammunition when it's dramatically appropriate, or you're doing auto fire and you know exactly how many bullets you are firing,
Right.
which is not how it works in the real world.
Nope.
And the fact that the players are expected to know how many bullets are in the gun, how many bullets are left, and in a firefight, in a real world firefight, you're firing, you're reloading, you're firing, you're reloading. In a game, you're gonna run out of enemies before you run out of bullets. The majority of the time.
Possibly. Yeah.
I think the only game I've
for
played
most
to the
modern
contrary-
systems.
The only game I've played to the contrary is a video game, The Last of Us. Handles ammunition real well. Is there a Last of Us pen and paper RPG?
No.
A video game that I think handles ammunition in a way that I wish more more pen and paper role-playing games did it is XCOM, the more recent remake of XCOM, where you've got a guy. It doesn't matter how many bullets the gun actually uses. They have so many uses of that gun before you have to reload. So a big Gatling gun, you've basically got 3 uses of it before you got to stop and reload. And that's kind of similar to what the real military uses, as far as they know, like with an M16, the rule of thumb is you fire a burst and you're assuming that it's about 5 rounds and you've got 5 or 6 bursts before you're out. So after 5 bursts, you reload regardless of how many bullets are actually left in the chamber. And then there's another way around this is where you actually put tracer rounds, like the last bullet or the last, fifth to last bullet, so that you know when you're getting ready to end, so that you can reload then. And in a pen and paper game where a combat round lasts usually 3 to 6 seconds, is what I'm seeing most games defining as a round, you're going to go through a whole clip in that time, regardless of how big the gun is, because most guns fire more than that per minute.
Let me jump in and say
hell.
I like I like what you were talking about with the so many rounds of uses for automatic fire. The place that really hits the brakes is when you've got something like an assault rifle that is a select fire weapon. When you have the option of switching over to single shot versus full auto or burst or whatever. I guess that's a reason that I really belabored this a bunch in Apocalyptia, is because if you're playing a game where you're, space marines that are like totally decked out in ammo or whatever, then it's not a resource to worry about. But a post-apocalyptic game where resources are the huge, attrition force of the game, the economy of the game, then every round needs to count. Not everybody likes doing that, but I don't know, that's a real pinch point. The best that I've been able to come up with is the optional rule where you have magazines and you run out when you botch. That's just when your magazine goes empty. It's not great because you might botch on your first round of the magazine. Why the fuck is that the case?
Well, it might be just the botch means that there's a snag in the magazine.
The whole magazine's jammed up.
Like the first bullet you try to fire, the magazine jams. Yeah. And so it's effectively the same thing. You've got to reload anyway, because you're not going to stand there in the middle of a firefight and, take the magazine out. Oh, I need to eject this one bullet.
Yeah.
And then stick it back in.
Goddamn piece of shit.
Yeah, I like the idea of ammo being decided by just random dice. I think that's the best choice. Being if you roll below, on a d20, roll below a 8 or something like that, and you're SOL. You roll 1 and, like, what ammo?
This is one of those things that's heavily personality based for the players, though. I've definitely played with lots of people who want to account for every single round that they have, and goddamn you if you try to gyp them out of a single round that they had written on their sheet. And is a perfect example of that. He wouldn't fly with any of that fucking, oh, you botched, so you lost your fucking 30-round magazine. No, I didn't. I got fucking 4 rounds of hollow points and then 5 rounds of FMJ and tracers all the way down after that.
Insert knuckle crack here. Alright, so I'm that kind of player, and let me explain why I think it's cool. We're in America, right? Everyone's got guns.
Yikes.
I've got 14 guns
Broad statement.
in my pockets right now.
I got guns, bang bang!
You know, I could
That's such a visual bit.
pick
Sorry,
you up
hun.
and
That was the bang
throw
bang.
you across the room, and then I'd feel real bad, so I'd quickly dash across and catch you before you landed.
Because your celerity is that high.
Oh yeah. So I've got an explanation for why it's okay to be the way I am.
Everyone needs one.
Yes, we all agree that the fully auto weapon is the infantryman's choice. It's also the choice of the Ohio University Police Department when they're trying to protect all the drunks on Halloween night. 3 AR-15 wielding, fully tacticaled out OUPD officers, and a dude with a fucking shotgun.
AR-15s or M4s?
Probably M4s. I didn't get close to him.
Or AR-15s
It's so bad.
single action? Or
Semi-auto.
I mean.
Probably M4s. They were small, but I didn't get that close. But definitely a dude with just a big old full-size shotgun.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Regardless, it's wrong.
point is, we all know that they're the best gun. However, even in America, I would posit that it's not that common to get your hands on a fully automatic weapon.
Nope.
In the apocalypse, you're going to be wielding 22s, single shot, Eastern Bloc made fucking AKs, probably more like SKSs, really. Maybe like, and by single shot I mean semi-auto again. Keep fucking that up. We do.
There's a lot of fucking Bushmaster and Colt AR-15s and stuff, single action stuff in this country.
And a hell of a lot of
Or
handguns.
semi-auto. Yeah.
So, I really like counting rounds. I like games like Resident Evil, the old ones, Last of Us, where you choose to use a bullet, and you're like, okay, I've got 3 rounds left in my fucking revolver. That thing's rushing at me. It's all happening very, very quickly, by the way. I guess it's time to use one. Phew. Okay, I missed. Okay, well now it's right up on me, it's gonna kill me. Now I have to use one. Boom, I hit it. Now I have 1 bullet left. Fuck.
I feel like
I like that.
I feel like it's really good for, like, when you have a small amount of ammo like that. It's intense, and it, like, leaves a lot of suspense in the game, in, like, what you're doing. But if it's, like, multiple guns and multiple types of ammo and different types of scenarios, is it too complex?
No. When you get to a late game post-apocalyptic thing, I agree with you. But when you start out, I'm the kind of player that will, and mind you, I'm answering this as an opinion here. That's just like my opinion, man.
Don't force your opinions on me.
Early game apocalypse RPGs, I find like a weird fucking like Japanese World War II battle rifle in some old dude's house with 2 bullets. I'm gonna pick that shit up and carry it, even if I'm encumbered, because that's 2 bullets. That's awesome. I need those. Late game, I don't give a shit. It's too complex. You're right. But like, I really, and also mind you, you will be encumbered, and so maybe you shouldn't pick up that rifle, but that's 2 bullets. You could use those to kill 2 things. That is what horrific, post-apocalyptic games are all about. The struggle of every bullet counts. Every bullet is a thesis on should you shoot it or not.
Okay. You've reminded me of what the point I lost was.
Oh.
So, in a game where a round is short, like GURPS, I believe rounds are 1 second. In Apocalyptia, it's what, 3? Yeah. I'm fine with the ammunition as it is, But if you get into a round being longer than that, like in D&D, a round is 6 seconds. The longer the round is, the less realistic it is to track each individual piece of ammunition that you spend. Because you're in a clutch situation, if a round is 1 second, yeah, I can totally see taking an entire round to aim and then firing the next round as being 2 seconds in a firefight of taking 2 seconds to fire a shot. In D&D, I want to spend a round aiming. I'm going to spend 6 seconds aiming.
That's a hell of an aim.
And then I'm going to take a shot. And that shot doesn't just happen at the 6 second mark. There is a total of 12 seconds between the last time you shot, you aimed, and then you take your other shot.
I like to imagine the arrow takes 6 seconds to get there. It's like, fling, clang.
That was still
that was a
less
good
than
twang.
6 seconds, though. The noises you made. Like, to be fair.
You right.
No, like, just to harp on Clayton's point.
And whenever you're doing it like that, a person's going to blow through an entire clip of ammunition in the time that 2 rounds have gone.
Yeah, Clayton, they're actually called magazines.
It depends on the gun.
Jordan
I'm
says
speaking
pushing his glasses.
colloquially.
That was amazing.
Colloquially. I can't even say that word.
Colloquially.
Yes.
No one can.
Colon B.
It's a fake word, guys.
Nina, I didn't mean to interrupt your interruption of me. Did you have more to add?
I don't remember.
But a little bit further in the discussion about ammunition, the bullets spent to kill ratio in any game. Yeah, it's possible that 1 shot, 1 kill. U.S. snipers in Vietnam averaged 1.3 rounds per kill. Your standard soldier with an M16 spent 50,000 rounds for a kill. That's the ratio. M16. Before we even get into any big fucking machine guns. The North Hollywood shootout at the Bank of America in North Hollywood in 97, 2,000 rounds were fired. 2 people were killed. 12 officers were injured and 8 civilians were injured in 2,000 rounds. I have not seen any game system at all, video game or
Gears of War. I hate the guns in Gears of War. Anyway, that's crazy. That's some crazy stats.
The M16 was replaced by the M4 largely because the M16 only had semi-automatic and full auto settings. And what they found in Vietnam is that people would put it on fully automatic and just blow a magazine in the general direction of where they thought the Viet Cong might be in the jungle and blow through their ammo so fast and then be completely out of ammo. So the M4 has a burst fire setting on it that is the interim. I think it depends on the M4. Some of them just have a burst setting, and different ones I think have burst and full auto. But yeah, the Army did a big study on that, and when you give people the option for full auto and their life is on the line, they go to rock and roll mode immediately and just fucking spray and pray.
That is something I have never thought to roleplay. In video games, even more like tactical combat simulators, like the Battlefield franchise. I haven't played the Arma franchise, which is even more so. But in Battlefield, I'll even say Halo, and certainly in pen and paper RPGs, I prefer single-shot type weapons, because I'm the kind of person that likes my accuracy percentages. I want to be, 1.3 shots, 1 kill. And I don't think about, I got a full auto gun, I got a single shot mode in the same gun, going in there, my life's in the line. Yeah, we're gonna go spray and pray here. That's an interesting thing that I might have to start incorporating into my role playing.
The snipers that you're talking about in Vietnam, I think one reason that their shot to kill ratio was so high is, for one thing, the sniper rifles they were using were much higher caliber. They were using 308 7.62 by 51 millimeter military version rounds, they were also using bolt action military equivalent of Remington 700s. So you just don't get that many shots. And I think those things hold like maybe 5 in a magazine or something like that. So yeah, you get a bunch of scared kids from Nebraska with machine guns and they're going to go nuts. You get a couple of, trained Green Berets and they're going to sit there and, time their breath and pop heads.
But in like a lethal role-playing game system, you're probably going to be at the 1.3 bullets per kill with most player characters. Mm-hmm. And I found that, ironically enough, modern-day game systems, which use a large pool of hit points, actually simulate the shit ton of bullets flying your way before you go down. But that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Having a big sack of hit points, walking around, I'm good until I'm dead, just doesn't work.
Also, it doesn't make you feel, in my experience, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but we'll go into it again, doesn't make you feel the fear. Mm-hmm. Like, I got 100 hit points, I'm down to 30 HP, I'm good, I'm fine. In reality, you're 2/3 of the way dead, but you've just weathered, fucking 70 points of damage, and so you're like, I'm good.
The best that I could ever come up with for the spray and pray thing is suppressing fire rules, where you designate a firing arc of 45 degrees in some direction, and you commit to firing some number of rounds, say 10 rounds at 30 your magazine. And then anybody in that round that happens to go through that arc, you get to make an attack against them, but without any of your skill penalty, without any of your skill bonuses, without any of your gear mods, your laser, any of that kind of stuff. It's just a straight up roll against basic defense that they have, and it's just sheer luck if you happen to hit them. And you can do that however many bullets that you shoot. So you just create an area of hazard by blowing all this ammo and hope for the best.
What I don't like about that is that it relies on having a battle grid. What I do like about that is that it's pretty elegant. It's good. I like that. But you'd have to have a fucking battle map, and I know not everybody plays with those.
I don't think you need a map necessarily. If the group is all kind of in the same sort of place, then you can just say, there's this many enemies over in this quadrant, or whatever it is, and deal with it that way. But yeah, you're right. If you really want to split hairs, you would need some kind of map to figure out who's where. But that would also go for allies as well. If some ally runs through there, you're not going to just stop for your buddy. That's a classic friendly fire situation. But you were getting into hit point stuff. That is another big pet peeve of mine, is that very few, if any, games handle wounds, and specifically bleeding, at all, or very well. D&D doesn't even touch bleeding. No. It's like a special rogue ability in some versions of it or something.
I'm sorry, what?
Bleeding.
It's a special rogue ability?
Yeah, there's, I can't remember what it's called, but I think in 3rd or 3.5, I think there's also something for it in 5th edition. I don't remember if 4th had it or not.
4th had ongoing damage.
Yeah, it's some special rogue attack that you do that creates just a damage over time simulation of bleeding. But if I'm a fucking barbarian with my greatsword and come over and hack at you, you just get a certain quantity of damage and then walk away, It's whatever.
I've never considered that. I didn't realize that it was a thing in D&D.
I thought
let alone a special thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a consistent thing. At least in the D&D games I've played, there was consistent damage. It acted almost like poison. You'd get this much damage each turn, kind of thing.
That is not in any standard D&D. If you were playing in a game where any common attack would do some staggered damage over time to simulate bleeding, that was a house rule.
There were a few spells that did
trying
that.
To remember
like acid. Yeah. Particularly acid did that.
I'm trying to remember if it was a Savage Worlds thing or not, though. But that health system is weird anyway.
I don't
No?
I can't think of any bleeding.
Yeah, Savage Worlds didn't have anything for bleeding at all.
No.
I feel like it's a lot of in video games as well, though. Like, you get your arm chopped off in one of the Resident Evils and you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of, like, MMOs, RPGs, you get shot a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're fine.
It's also my favorite horror movie trope, so
Not bleeding out.
a lot of feelings about this. Leprechaun Origins. But anyway.
In a couple of the games that I've played, like, bleeding is a specific ability that drains your health. It doesn't matter how many times they've hit you beforehand. If they activate this one, now you're bleeding.
Yeah.
So, like, that makes a lot of sense.
Preposterous.
It is. It's not that hard to deal with. It's just extra things to add on that a lot of people probably never want to deal with, kind of thing.
How does it work in Apocalyptia?
In Apocalyptia...
Since we have a
Let's go
special interview with the creator right here.
In Apocalyptia, there's three kinds of damage. There's blunt damage, which is just pain until a certain point, and then it becomes real. There's lethal damage, that is any edged weapon or bullet or anything that pierces, and then there's fire damage. Either of those two damages that's not blunt, if you take damage at all, you start taking bleeding damage from your torso.
Okay.
And once you drop to 0 torso, you're unconscious. And you make a roll every minute, a constitution roll, to see if you can naturally stop bleeding. But what you really need is a medical roll to stop you from bleeding. And that's pretty much what medicine does, because it doesn't bring back hit points. You have to heal that naturally. But yeah, it kind of assumes that if you're taking any damage at all, aside from a punch or a baseball bat or something, you're going to start leaking fluids.
Right.
And it also has the transfusion kit thing where you can take hit points from somebody and give them to another person up to a point, up to like just stable in it at 1 or 0 or whatever it is, to give someone some blood. But yeah, I assume that people are going to bleed all over the place, because that's what happens when you fucking cut someone or shoot someone or whatever the fuck. Most people don't die immediately from a gunshot wound, even if you get shot in the heart, you're going to live for 9-12 seconds or something before you bleed out completely.
A horrifying concept.
Yeah.
Apocalyptia. The blood game.
I do remember we did play during Factions. That time everybody got blown up.
I blacked out from that game, thanks.
Trying to save everybody, and people were dying because they were bleeding out, and I'm just like, heck, I can't staunch the bleeding of 3 or 4 different people at once. What do I do? And it was really stressful, and it made it just like that much more stressful that they were dying as I was like working on them because I wasn't doing it fast enough.
The pressure of triage.
Yeah.
I think that's, on a tangent, a more interesting stress decision than when to use a bullet. But that might be, that's definitely a personality thing.
Yeah, with a bullet, you're deciding who dies. With triage, you're deciding who you're gonna save.
Poetic! I love it!
You can
Or
save lives with
horrendous.
bullets, Clayton. Like,
No, sorry, they
You're
only...
No, hear me out.
No, you
got
you cannot
yourself.
save lives.
You got
a
yourself
life.
in front of your girl like a shield. You know,
I hate
zombies
this.
running at you. You pull your gun. You're gonna shoot.
And you're
no,
still
yeah,
taking a life.
Yeah, no, zombies are
I
already
know
dead.
this is a bit, but
Zombies
it's
are already
exciting.
dead, bro.
Hey, save the last bullet for yourself, bro.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
dude, that's the real shit
I know
right
this
there.
is like a really great bit,
I fuck
but
with
honestly...
that. I fuck with that strategy.
I know that was a bit,
People say that. People say that. That's an
trying
expression.
to talk.
Like, I fuck with that. I fuck with that.
I've said that so many times.
I fuck with that. That means for the uninitiated, that means I like that, by the way. Like, yes, I fuck with that, Chianti.
Do you know what the worst version of that phrase is, by the way? Is I fuck with that insert person here. Because it does mean I like that person, but there is another connotation there.
Can we get into grapple now?
Sure.
Jordan, let's grab
Please, anything to not talk about firearms. I was, like, blanking.
Firearms? Oh no, they're on fire! Where's the extinguisher?
Nina is now flapping her arms around.
Like
No, that's
fire!
what he cut. It doesn't even matter.
There's firearms, there's a jet, there's a plane, there's a plane.
Alright, so go on. Give us your best on grapple, Clayton. I'm taking notes because I don't know what the fuck to do about grapple.
I don't know what to do with grapple. I've never seen anyone do it right. And
You mean in-game, because I've seen a lot of fights.
right, I've never seen a game do grapple right, and nothing simulates reality because I wish I could give advice on how to fix this. I'm just pointing out what's wrong. I don't have any advice on how to fix this.
My real doll feels pretty real to me, Clayton.
I would like to go home now immediately, thank you.
In the games I've played with Grapple, most of the GMs that I was with canceled it and said no.
That's actually my favorite way to go around bad rules, just be like, oh, I want to do this. No, you don't.
Because it was basically getting out of a very dire situation because they're just prolonging everything and just making it miserable for everybody else. And so they're just like, you're not allowed to grapple anymore. It's not in my game.
There was one game with one particular instance where grapple actually did what grapple really does in the real world.
Really?
And this is Dungeons & Dragons 3.x, where if you are any class besides a wizard, and a wizard is casting a spell, you grapple them. Because you fuck their shit up, and there is nothing they can do about it. That's how it is in the real world. If you get on top, you are beating someone.
Yeah, Clayton, you're absolutely right. If you walk up to somebody and they're trying to cast a magic spell and you hug them, they're gonna be so fucking awkward because they're a giant nerd because they think they can cast magic spells.
Can we roll?
They're gonna stop the spell.
It's
roll
worked
back?
for me every time.
Wait. Can we roll back to the Magocracy discussion? Just, what the fuck is a magic user to a hug? What do they do with that?
Look at it more like this. If somebody's trying to calm the situation down by talking, just fucking pummel them.
Hey guys, where are the D&D skills for conflict de-escalation? Because it's what I'm good at.
Intimidate?
No. I mean, like,
Bluff?
calm. Where's the calm?
Diplomacy.
Oh, actually, fair.
Calm
That's actually a really good point. Diplomacy. I retract my joke. Reeling it back in.
The problem with grapple that I found is that it is this word that we've created that is supposed to be an umbrella for a shitload of different common things that can happen in a one-on-one fight. And, if you're trying to, say, wrestle a gun out of someone's hand, that's one thing. If you're trying to, twist their arm behind their back and, disable them, that's a different thing. A dog pile is a different thing. For trying to use them as a human shield, that's a different thing. And, all these different scenarios are supposed to be within this one massive subset of rules called grapple. And what the fuck? There's just too many options when you're a human being. I've never seen just to expand it a little more, I've never seen a role-playing game sufficiently do justice to unarmed combat, personally.
Melee's garbage.
That's still armed combat, is the problem.
Punching. I hate fist fight in, RPG.
You see, your fists are attached to your arms, therefore it is armed combat.
Leg fights. Worst kickboxing.
It's always terrible. It's absurd to me in D&D. Let's take 3.5, for instance. I could be a fucking 15th level fighter who just happened to never take unarmed combat, but goddamn, I could kill a dragon with my greatsword. But if I try to throw a punch against a peasant, I'm doing a D3 plus my strength damage, and he's probably going to shake it off and come back at me with a fucking rolling pin or something. What? How is this a thing?
Well, I mean, pick up a stick. You figured it out. Just pick up a stick.
Are you challenging me?
Yeah, Jordan, do you want to, go outside? You pick up a stick, I'm just with my unarmed combat. Let's go!
But really...
You would win regardless. Oh my god.
There's always this weird disconnect that I've found in role-playing games, or almost every single role-playing game, between having a melee weapon and having your fists. But whenever I've looked at, medieval fighting styles or modern fighting styles, whatever it is, unarmed components are always a part of it. You're always using your free limb to, bat away their arms or get them in some situation where you can get the kill shot with your actual weapon. You're throwing a kick where you can, an elbow, whatever. No one's just sitting there with their sword and just waving horizontally like this. You know, they're hitting you with their shoulder, they're trying to knock you down, whatever. It's a full body exchange, and most role-playing games act like there's unarmed combat over here, there's melee weapons over here, and then there's ranged weapons over here, and you might even have an extra dodge thing that's a separate deal.
I think that's simply I think kind of all of this is just simply an aspect of being a game, and like I don't know if there's a way that isn't like Eclipse Phase complicated to simulate all of this. Like when you talked about grapple and like how it encompasses a lot of different things, like that's kind of how you get things like fray and things that don't make sense. Like you try to separate all of that. I don't know, I think it's just kind of an aspect of being a game.
As a game designer, I have to hope that there's some kind of, like, golden mean in there somewhere. Right, that's
fair. As a game designer, that's fair.
Some ideal. I don't know what it is yet.
You'll find it, I believe in you.
I hope so.
I have never seen a game effectively take into consideration how advancing one skill will advance, albeit more slowly, other skills. Obviously, if I am a trained, like, bench rest shooter that can lay a rifle down sweetly on a bed of roses, and be like some, you know, like totally stationary sniper, and somebody gets up in my business, and I have to go into melee combat, I could be terrible at that. It makes sense, but if you're swinging around a sword using melee weapons, like you're gonna be okay at that. And there has to be some way to, like, you know, maybe have, like, an Apocalyptia kind of does this a little bit, but just have, like, a broad category of talents that have more, like, specialties that you're better at. You know, like, I'm talented at melee combat, and my specialty is longswords, but I could beat the shit out of you with my fists just as easily.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the real world is ever going to run into someone who is really great at sword fighting, who couldn't also beat your ass with their bare fists if they wanted to. That's just not how
Hey, bud, I aspire to be that person. Hate punching. Love swords.
Aghast, you have disarmed my etude. Now, how shall I possibly hit you?
Guys, I got two things. I got sword fighting, and I can run. Fair, I'll survive.
I've got the power of the sword and anime by my side!
I love him.
It's a video reference.
There's one other thing I want to bitch about.
Yes!
And that is arrows, bows and arrows versus guns in game mechanics. In that, technologically speaking, you're in every game I've ever played, you're going to be better off using a bow over a firearm until you get to the point where you've got a cylinder or something, or a magazine or something that you can fire multiple bullets with. I haven't seen a game system where firing a bow is worse than using a Kentucky long rifle.
Really?
I don't know many game systems that stat out black powder, but I'm not going to disagree with you.
Say that again, Clayton. Let me hear exactly what you're saying one more time.
Okay, I have not seen a game that shows the advantage of having black powder firearms as being an advantage over having longbows.
I think this...
Either individually or in mass.
I think it goes into comparison on how, like, each round you can only really fire a single bullet, where in reality... you should be firing like 3 or 4 at a time, every half second.
I think it's highly contextual because if, you know, we're, say, living room distance apart and you've got some muzzle loader and I've got, you know, a crossbow and we're facing off against each other, we're equally likely to die. A crossbow or a longbow or whatever, it has a lot less velocity. It's got a lot more mass, and it also has a profile that is designed to slice a huge wound cavity through you and also stick inside you and maximize bleeding and disincentivize you from removing it. A bullet, regardless of caliber for the most part, it's entirely possible that you could shoot someone and it could pass right through them. I think in the real world, bullets are a lot more based on shot placement, whereas an arrow could kill you over some period of time, counting bleeding out, in a location that, if it were a gunshot wound, would have been non-fatal. Because again, you're cutting this huge fucking channel through a person. You're hitting all these veins and arteries all the way through there. If you're talking about, like, from a military perspective, if you're talking about at long range, for instance, guns are going to be much better. And if you're talking about rapid fire, guns are going to be much better. But single shot versus single shot, I don't know, man. I could probably name some guns I'd rather be shot with than a fucking arrow from a compound bow with a modern broadhead on it.
But why did bows and arrows go out of fashion so relatively quickly after guns got to a certain point?
Armor piercing.
While we still had muzzle-loading rifles, they completely supplanted bows and arrows in the battlefield.
I think that accuracy has a lot to do with it.
I was about to say, aren't even, like, muskets more accurate than a bow and arrow?
Yeah.
If shot correctly?
Bows are really hard to shoot, and also it requires very little mechanical motion to fire the thing. Whereas with a bow, you've got to do this whole full body, both arms kind of thing. That's a lot of space you have to have available. With a flintlock, I could just walk up on you and shoot you in the guts with the twitch of a finger.
A lot less strength.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a person that's held a gun,
and
not shot one, but held a bow and arrow.
And it takes a lot less training to use a gun.
Mm-hmm. 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 I've taught people to shoot guns. There is no way in hell, like, people have tried to teach me to shoot arrows, and just like, I gotta feel it? Some kind of Mr. Miyagi shit?
That's my type of shit.
I want to point out, back to your comment about a broadhead doing damage to a body versus a musket ball, or even a rifled slug. My great-great-grandfather on my mom's side, my mom would tell stories, so my mom's great-grandfather, she would talk with him about his involvement in the American Civil War, and he had a musket wound to his leg that did not heal normally. It healed and sealed and left a fucking tunnel through his leg. And he would gross out all of his young, like, great-grandchildren by having them, like, daring them to, like, stick their finger in the, not bleeding, like, totally sealed off, but still a fucking chasm of a wound in his leg. Wow. How cool is that?
Wow.
That's really cool shit.
What if they touched it? Would it hurt?
Probably was pretty numb, I imagine.
I was going to say nerve damage, yeah.
I'm glad you used the proper term for that, which is actually tunneling. That's when there's a cavity in the body that doesn't heal.
There's a word for it. Oh my god, yeah. I love it so much. I mean, terrible. However, real cool concept. The human body's amazing.
It's like all of the holes in your body.
Okay.
Well, guys, we say we end here and stop this bullshit and start rolling some dice.
Fuck humans.
This has been a production of Alien Familiar Media. You can find past episodes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. This production is protected under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivatives license. Music for this episode is Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale and can be found at freemusicarchive.org.